We are back today, my friends, and I'm super stoked for this because I get an opportunity to introduce you to someone who has coached me personally on exactly what we're talking about today. Anthony, your life, just to lead into this, your life is a masterclass, I would say, in transformation. From former foster care to NFL player to building a life of deep purpose as a businessman, a family man. And in this conversation, what I want to do is I really want to focus on what I believe is the missing link for most people's financial journey. It's
Yeah.
identity. Before we can ever talk money, we have to understand how someone, who they have to become, the kind of person capable of building the freedom that they want. And so, Anthony, to have you here today to share your expertise is such a privilege and such an honor because I believe in life we don't get what we want, we get who we are. So let's talk a little bit about an identity shift. What does that mean to you? Why is that the first
Oh, yeah.
domino?
Well, I'll look at it this way. First off, identity, by definition, I'll call it, is who you are when you're not thinking about who you are. It's the natural habits, patterns, flows. So everybody operates a certain way. We've all learned things through life. I call it an experience. It's wired us to do things, and so we do it. No big deal, but it is a big deal because that creates the things we have in life. And so what happens is a lot of folks realize they don't realize this, there's a lot of information. We consume information. We read the books, go to the seminars or the classes. We get all these different, insights. The problem is it's not what we know; it's who we are with what we know. So if you learn these things, you don't apply them a certain way, you don't get the outcome. You don't get the thing you desire. And a lot of folks live in this space where they're steadily watching this life that they could be living. They're learning and investing in, but they're good at making the first investment, which most people do. It's making the first financial investment. The second investment, which is the most important, is the time spent doing that thing. But if they don't identify with the actions, it becomes so uncomfortable, create great excuses to not do it. So the first domino is to accept that, all right, I can get this thing, but it's going to require, like you said, me to be better because I don't believe you can attain or sustain anything above your current identity. So that's kind of the foundation. I think what we'll talk to is that sounds good, but it's probably like, well, what does that mean? How do we do that? Like, what are the steps to it? And I'm happy to unpack all that with you here because anybody listening right now, if you've ever wanted more, it's accessible, but it's not accessible as the person you are.
Man, I love that. You can't obtain or sustain anything beyond your current identity. It is so true. So let's talk about this then, because I believe identity, for me personally, is oftentimes my blind spot. I don't even realize I don't have the identity to get what I want next. So,
Yeah.
how can someone tell that their current identity is the thing that's holding them back? Even if they're
Well,
working hard, even
yeah.
if they're reading the books, all the things, how can they
Yeah.
make that mental shift to say, oh, it's my identity, my belief system?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll put it this way. Anyone that's spent some time working towards something and getting tired doing it, right? Your energy's
Mm,
drained from emotional energy and physical energy and whatever it is, going, man, I'm working so hard, but I'm not getting the thing I want. The way I explain it is the thing you want is outside your current max level of effort. On top of this, it usually means you're plugging holes that you don't have to plug. So here's what I mean by that. Whenever you have an identity, your identity has certain habits, patterns, actions, traits, right? But there also is like little holes. You said we'll call them blind spots, and these little things like they're leaking out. We'll call it habits and actions that are the things you need to have in place to succeed. Here's an example of this: I want to launch a podcast, but your identity doesn't do well with, I don't know, listening to yourself after you've recorded yourself. So what happens? You try to find ways to avoid that, and so you either don't record or you procrastinate, have somebody else do it, and it's not the same as like there's little nuance pieces. But you're doing a lot of work though. I'm still recording episodes and I'm getting the titles and the hooks, but there's a piece you're not doing well. So you get tired, not getting anywhere. But the reality is, if you just go, okay, well, the best podcasters we know, maybe they listen to the podcast when it's done, or they tune into something. Well, that's what the trait is you must do. You must adopt that. And if you never do that, you can spin your wheels all day and get tired, never making the progress. But the reality is when somebody goes, hey, how do I know I need to make a shift or it's time? It's when you step back and go, there is some part of me that feels apprehension to this specific task that must be done, and that task not getting done is holding me back. So if you want something more, and you don't have the something more, that's the reality. And here's what I will call it. I call it an identity gap. So there's a gap between the identity you have now that does the things that gets what you want and you have a life cool, but then there's another thing you want higher. So in your world, people want to have enough cash flow and income to have, a free life to be able to retire if you want to, so to speak, right? Because you have things moving in the background that your money's making you money. Sounds great. Well, there's going to be a certain identity that has that. That identity understands in the moments when I shouldn't splurge on that thing. The identity knows when I should be, aware that, hey, this percentage of my income is going to go to this place. There's a certain part of the identity that knows how to be able to take risk and hop on a deal when they see it, right? That identity creates that. But the
Mm.
problem is those who look at that and don't have is because they have a gap between the person they are and that person we just mentioned. And the gap shows up in those moments. The fear, the apprehension. There's a statement I heard recently and said that successful people, they trust their vision and they doubt their fear. Unsuccessful people, they trust the fear and doubt the vision.
Dang, that's good. That's good.
It,
That's
it, it,
100% true.
right? It's crazy, but that's a part of the separator. So the identity of the person who succeeds, like I trust the vision, man. Fear's gonna be there. Let's rock, right? I can identify with that. The other identity has a gap where when something shows up, it creates fear. They go, oh, yeah, I am gonna struggle. It's gonna be hard. What if it doesn't work out? And they don't trust the vision. They doubt the vision. Maybe it's not for me. So those different people, they have the same books, same coach, same course, same tools, but one gets success and one doesn't. It's not the information.
Man, you are speaking so much wisdom there. And I don't believe, I mean, I think human tendency is to look for the tactics, right? It's to look for the quick fix, the solution.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
rarely do we internally apply this to us. So here's where I want to ask you, because you're such a phenomenal coach at helping people see that blind spot and then work through that blind spot. So if this is the first practical step that we cannot achieve beyond our current level of identity, what's
yeah,
the first practical step that someone can take to begin
yeah.
to shift who they are without feeling
Uh-huh.
like a fraud, without feeling like
Oh,
they're
perfect.
doing something that they're uncomfortable with, even if they
Yeah,
have to do it, or they're not good
you.
at, or they're
Yeah.
pretending? Like, how do they do that?
Well, you're gonna have to. I think that there's this thought that the imposter syndrome is supposed to be removed, and I don't think it is. I think you're supposed to feel that. The thing is, the imposter. I've noticed people get to the point of going, I'm identifying with the outcome, but there's
Mm,
no proof of the outcome in your life. So, what I do is I go, stop identifying with the outcome, see what that person did and does to be where they're at or how they got there, identify with the actions. I'm the kind of person that will do this. Eventually, you'll become that person. It takes time. But the actual first step is interesting. There's a book, or not a book, I think a statement I read at some point by a guy named Tim Murphy, and it says, it's hard to see the label when you're inside the jar.
yeah, yeah.
Right. So we all have these jars of life. And in my jar, I might have my relationship, my health, my career, my business, my investments, right? There's a way that jar has things. But what happens is you notice the lack in your jar. And you can see through your
Mm,
jar to somebody else's jar and go, man, that jar's full. They got all the great. Why don't my jar have anything? But you can't see the label that says, well, you procrastinate. You're unorganized. You're hard to talk to. I don't know. You make bad investments, right? You're done with your money, whatever it may be. And so what happens is you can't see that, but you're like, why don't I have stuff? And it's like, oh, well, because you do these things, but you're unaware of them. And even more than this, a lot of folks, the higher up the food chain you get, the less your ears are open to hear negative feedback.
mm.
The more status I find that people have, the less likely they are to actually listen because they don't want to have anybody take a chink out of that armor. They don't want to feel bad, right? So the status is the thing they hold on to in the ego. So what I recommend in the very beginning is for you to figure out what type of identity you're operating from. We have come to find there's about four that are like the base of what I operate from. And they're at the intersection of opportunity and opposition. And this will give you an idea, anybody listening, of where you might want to spend some energy focusing to go to the next level. In opportunity, you can either pursue opportunity or procrastinate on it. In opposition, you can either go, attack with opposition or whatever it shows up, or you can secede to it. Those who see opportunity as scary and those who do not overcome opposition well, they're dreamers. Big ideas, big dreams. They tell everybody in their life, I'm gonna do this. But the moment something comes to the head of doing it, right, the opportunity shows up, it's like, oh, but what if and they dream all day, never do anything beyond that. Then you have the person that sees a new opportunity and they go after it all day long. You know, these people, they just, oh, new opportunity, I'm on it, right? But then the moment opposition shows up, they don't overcome it. So they secede, they pull back a little bit, and they wait for the next shiny object. I call them a dabbler. We bounce around from thing to thing, never staying consistent. Then you have the one which is the majority of the clients I work with, which are high level operators. They're not all like this, by the way, but there's a good chunk, which is this. They're a person that's had great success. And they've got to a point in life where they've had so much success that when opportunity shows up, they don't know if they want to take it because what if it detracts from my current status? What if I have to become a beginner again? So they can, an opposition hits, they'll battle and hold their ground. Like, no, I got this. I'm like, I built this. I'm keeping this, right? But new opportunity, I don't know if I want
Mm,
to take it. I might lose everything. So they are what I call defenders. They defend
mm,
what they have, but they don't grow much. Then you have what I call dominators. Dominators are interesting because, and honestly, there's levels to it. I'm not going to go through all the levels, but you're more of a dominator. And this is what a dominator is. They're a person that sees opportunity and can pursue it because they know that all opportunity carries opposition. They're not worried about it because they know that when they see opportunity, so the opposition and that pathway, that those who overcome opposition access more opportunity. It's a cycle. These people dominate. They show up. They think different, feel different. You walk into a room and you hear them speak, and it sounds like a foreign language. It makes you like question your own beliefs and thoughts. The rooms, what we walk into, people that are just ticking at a high level. These are like you're just these are your billionaires. They operate at a different level. These are the high level operators, in our space. And what it is there's not this fear of opposition or fear of opportunity. Everything becomes a push forward because they harbor an identity that goes, I know there will be problems, but I bring me to those. So we're
I
good.
bring me. Man, I love those. Those four frameworks, my friends, as you're listening to this right now, identify, self identify, dreamer, dabbler, defender, dominator. And Anthony, I love that you share those identities because that helps give someone a frame of reference. I think probably one of the hardest things about this concept of identity is your lack of awareness, right? Your life
Yeah.
is what you perceive it to be. Your life is a function of your perception. And you
Hmm.
mentioned something that I think is key that we need to dive into. It's this higher, this journey, the hero's journey, right? Every
Oh
hero
yeah.
to become a hero again and again and again in their life, it's required that they do some dark work. It's required that they
Oh yeah.
face the abyss. They do some challenging things. That's
Hmm.
the only way that the hero is forged into the new hero. So
Yeah.
talk a
I
little
can
bit
tell you
about
why
this
too.
concept of dark work,
Yeah.
why a hero has to go into the abyss to become the hero necessary to get the outcome that they're looking for.
Yeah, yeah. It's the crucible. We all need the crucible, man. Here's why. I'll give you the base foundation of it. We are all wired neurologically and psychologically. If for example, the way that you've seen or experienced something from teachers, preachers, coaches, leaders, television, movies, who knows, it started wiring you to believe certain things, think certain things. Mom and dad taught you certain things, and so it gets wired in there. Interestingly, it all happens through experience. It's the only way you can wire, right? So I've used this example often. If we're in a room full of, 50 people and, I go, who's been bitten by a dog? 20 people raise their hand. Who hasn't been bitten by a dog? 30 people raise their hand. If a dog walks in the room, there's not a conscious processing. It's just an instinctual firing off. 20 people are out the door. 30 people are going, oh, look, a dog. It's
Mm,
just, and the only thing that separates that is the experience from the past that wired them to function. And again, they're not processing in real time. They don't go, I've been bitten by a dog. That's a dog. What if, no, it's just out. And so I go, well, that shows up also when all of a sudden a new opportunity comes, a bad email, your kids say something to you, that donut's in front of you, right? There's ways we function based on who we are. And it's all based on experience and the wiring. So when you look at how we are now, the way I explain it is it's just a matter of us having lived a life of experiencing things that have wired us a certain way. Some we chose to go after, some chased us down. The way I explain is like there's the proactive, the choice to improve my life, to forge headstrong into difficult spaces and really just know I'm going to face a battle and take it on. Or crap hits the fan. I'm broke, I'm sick, something's falling apart, like, whatever it is. And we find a way to have to muster ourselves like this energy to go and, in battle. And we all of a sudden win and we go, man, that was in me the whole time. And so what happens for all of us is there's got to be this stepping back and going, yeah, you have to go through a crucible. Now, dark work's this kind of interesting piece that I came to find when I was a kid, which is a moment in time where I went and first off, I want to be a great football player, and I wasn't. The actions and habits and patterns of a great football player I did not embody, but I knew what they were. So I had to start doing them, and I started doing them uncomfortably. I didn't feel confident as
mm,
the guy lifting weights and running routes, and it wasn't me, but I kept leaning in, and so I would do it once, right? And again, it's experience. I would do it once, I get made fun of. You keep doing it, get made fun of. But after like month one, it got a little easier. Month two, a little bit easier. By month 4 or 5, I had teammates who were making fun of me at first, working out with me now. The difference was that I was experiencing every day a difficulty that started becoming more normalized to me. I got better at it, more efficient, more effective. I could produce better. And I no longer was a guy that had this, I could run and catch. I was a football player. It was it was an embodied piece. But it was because I'd gone through this journey of experiencing something difficult, getting better and more efficient at it. And over time, I felt great going to do it. This is a process that's present in everything for all of us. Like you're a parent, I'm a parent. When my kids were born, I wasn't automatically a dad. Like, yeah, on paper, but I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this thing. I
On
hope it doesn't
paper.
die, you know? That's a whole different thing. But
Yeah.
then over the years, you just all the poopy diapers, the staying up late at night, the handling the boo-boos and the bumps, and feeding them and like all these moments, the cries and the joy. It's like just little by little you get to experience this. And now, God forbid, you try to challenge me on whether or not I'm a dad. I'm a dad, like there's
You're a dad.
an anchoring, but it's not because a switch got flipped. It's because of the experience over time. So if we take this and frame it for somebody's desire to have a better business or to be able to get out of debt or whatever it is, we just have to go back and go, all right, the things that you're going to have to do to become that identity, you don't do right now. And when you're first faced with them, it's going to make your butt pucker. You're going to be like, oh, I don't want to do that. It's going to be a natural feeling you have. But the idea is not to identify with the outcome, because if you compare yourself to that, every day you're operating from an awareness that you're not there, and it sucks. But if you can go, all right, these are the tasks, and I'm going to do these in the dark. And by the dark, I mean no praise. Nobody's
Yeah.
giving you a high five. There's no crowd of people going, well done sending that email out. Well done making the proposal. Like that's not what's going to happen. It's the stuff you do behind the scenes. And little by little, you get the effectiveness, which means you get the outcome. You get more efficient. You get more achievements. But it's the other part of it, which we would call the hero's two journeys in our world. If you want a Russell Brunson world, and the second journey is the one that's most important. Is the transformation. The first one was it was a catalyst. It was a mechanism required for us to go through the journey of becoming this new person. It was just the tool to help us. But the most important achievement is really the one where you become a different level you, because then that shows up in other places. Like you show up here and you develop this monstrous sense of confidence, and we'll say your business, you're going to carry that over to your marriage. You're going to carry it over
Mm.
to your health. You're going to carry it over to your parenting. And so to go through a window, a crucible, it's a hugely developed piece, but it can't happen in front of the scenes on social media all day. Because then what happens if the praise disappears? Your effort does also.
Man, I love that. I want to ask you one deeper question on this that relates specifically to so many of the people that I work with. And I think this is similar to what you said. And I want to go back to the identities, the defender versus the dominator. Most of the
Hmm.
people that I find that want this idea of financial freedom, they've already had success in other areas of their life, right?
Yeah.
They've dominated in their parenting, in their profession. Despite their best efforts, they haven't been able to achieve the financial success that they want for one reason or
Mhm.
another. And oftentimes they get to this point where they're in defense mode, saying it's good enough, it's status quo.
Yeah.
At least I'm
Right.
not doing as bad as that guy over there. How do
Yeah.
you turn on and flip that switch to constantly being in dominator mode, knowing
Yep.
that you're capable of so much more than your current life is giving you?
Yeah. Well, I think first you have to challenge. You have to challenge what you accept, right? You have to
Mm,
challenge the person you are in one state and the other one. For example, about a year and a half ago, like I functioned business wise pretty well. I functioned decently. I was doing okay in my health. But at a certain point, I was like, I'm really not in my peak shape. Like I'm not as good a shape I can. So I was like, I'm gonna lock in. And I found myself having to like tell myself to get up and don't eat that, and it was tough. But after you do it for a while, it becomes you. But here's the thing: is I was able to borrow from the mentality of what it was when I played in the NFL. That guy, I would actually like, how would that guy function? And I knew who he was. I remember his heart. And when I would get in the flow of it, I would activate that guy again. And that guy showed up in this space. So what it is you're showing up in one space, but when you go to the other space, you're leaving that guy behind
dang,
or
that's
girl behind.
powerful. Bring that guy with
And
you.
bring him with you, right? And here's how you bring him with you. It cannot operate off emotion, by the way. Like it doesn't do well emotionally, because all of us are going to have, if so, the word I love is discipline, because disciple means to follow or to share, but to say to follow here, and then plan. Discipline means to follow a plan. Most people want to be disciplined to an emotion. I'm gonna feel like doing it. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna get after it. I'm gonna go right. I'm gonna make this decision. Okay, cool. Sounds good. But none of that matters until the moment that it matters.
Mm,
And then if you show up to this moment and you don't feel like doing it, you don't get it done. The other side of the coin, the successful people we know, there's a plan in place. And they show up to that moment in time and they don't care about how they feel. The plan says this, I do what the plan says today. And then those are the folks that I say they design their dark. They design what the process looks like. They design the habits. They design the patterns. They design that structure. And when you design it and you bring that guy over, you're not having that guy come and create the plan and execute the plan. You're simply having that guy show up and execute the plan. Like most of us, there's a certain part of us that when you get into flow, you can go. The slowing down portion is the planning portion. Like I heard somebody say one time, the planning places where great ideas go to die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so most people are trying to come over. Now, it doesn't mean you can't plan or should. It just means that there's, I think, a certain part of us that should. And so what I found for me is when people are like they're doing well in business, but not in the marriage or not in the, it's not that they don't know how to work on things. They obviously do. It's that they're being expected to show up to a moment in time and feel like doing it, or follow a haphazard strategy or plan, and it just doesn't work because it's not consistent. So for me, most of the time, as I go, all right, when you really want to get down, you need to sit down and like write out structurally what does the day look like for the person who has the thing you want, and you're going to put things on there that are not things that you would want to do or you'd feel comfortable doing. They're things that that identity does. And so you have to separate yourself or have somebody else come in and create that for you, to where you are faced with doing things you don't want to do, but they'll move the needle. Here's so I can make an example of that. I'm a guy that has a degree in kinesiology. I owned a gym for a decade and sold it. Like I've got the fitness stuff down. I built a gym in my backyard. I know what I'm doing. I hired a coach, a fitness trainer, a year ago. We're going to the second year. We're 20 grand deep into this thing. And you probably would go, well, why would you spend 20,000 to do it? Because I will never make the plan as hard as it needs to be for my goals.
Mm.
I know myself enough. Now will I show up and do it all day? If it's on there, it's getting done, bro. He puts on there like between 8 and 12 reps. It's always 12. Like I'm gonna do it. It's always 12, right? But if I had to think, would go to the gym and think about the workout plan and what reps and sets and God, what exercise, I would not. I'd slowly get off the grid. I'd be eating food and hanging out and going for walks, right? But because it's there, there's a plan to follow. I show up to that moment and go, who is Anthony? What does Anthony do? Or what does a linebacker version of Anthony do? He does the damn workout. So I
Mm.
lean in and get it done. But it's because the plan was created to get me where I needed to go. I just had to follow it. I'll conclude by saying this. I recently, like maybe 6 months ago, had this come out of my mouth and it made sense to me. And it's been promising and helpful for other folks. But I go, your calendar has to be a slave to your dreams, meaning your dream is something that has a requirement for it. I don't care what you want it to be. Here's a dream, here's a requirement. Your calendar must be a slave to that. And by slave, I mean it intentionally. It has to follow it whether it wants to or not. It just has to do. It's forced, right? Then you become a slave to your calendar.
Mm.
Now, in that calendar, it should have things you don't want to do, but you still got to do them. Now, I'm big on like I cut it off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so my calendar says go have fun. Cool, I go have fun. I'm with my kids and I'm hanging out and doing dad stuff. You can schedule however you want to, but I must follow that calendar without emotional gauging or questioning. I got to do it because I know that it's also following the dreams and the vision. When you can take that apart, then all you do is you show up and you choose to be the person who does the thing today, and you close the day feeling good. And little by little, man, you start to carve out this new identity, and you pop up 30, 60, 90 days later. And what used to be hard to do, it's so ingrained in you, it's hard not to do it now. When you hit that space, bro, you're in a whole different era of life.
Anthony, that was, man, I've got goosebumps over here just listening to you go through that, that you become that person, the system. If you can commit to working a proven system, then slowly over time, as you show up and identify as that person that would do those things, I love that you're
Mhm.
future identifying. Who is that person? And let me just tap into that person's courage, tap into that person's
Yeah,
resilience, tap into that person's fortitude, and then apply it to me today. And
yeah,
oh man, that was so powerful. Just connecting the dots between those two with the plan that's fortified. So let's bring this to money, because I want to wrap this up with all of those things it translates into your money. And I truly believe that money
oh,
is
heavily.
a tool, but just like any tool, it's inanimate. It's just going to be what it is until the
Yep,
sculptor picks it up and sculpts something amazing. So
yeah,
if someone wants to identify or adopt the identity of financial freedom,
yep,
financial freedom in 10 years or less, a wealth builder, someone who's good with money, whether it's getting out of debt, whether it's investing successfully, whether it's generating cash flow.
yeah,
Walk us through that framework specific to someone
yeah.
coming and sitting down in front of you saying, Anthony, I've got to
This
get
is
my
good.
financial life in place.
This is great. I'm gonna start with this. You ever heard? You know the statistics around lottery winners, right? They win all the money, and then within like 2 years, they're
2 years,
bankrupt
three years
again.
gone. Yep.
Right? I had this, man, it rolled in my mind for a long time. I was like, why? Why would people just burn through it like that? And as I started doing this work, it made sense to me. If you identify in your core, not, just subconsciously as a person that's always, around $100 or $1,000 your bank account, like you're battling, you're calling the banks to be able to, hey, can we take off this overdraft fee, right? And I used to be that guy. There was years ago when I had my gym business, I was struggling. I had this identity of like money is so hard to come by, and
Mm,
I grew up like that. And what I realized is like there's a mentality where you feel comfortable at that, and anything above that, you feel a little uncomfortable. And so lottery winners, what they do is they open their bank account and they see, five more zeros than they're ever used to seeing, and it doesn't make them feel good. Not because they're going, I don't deserve this, but it's just I don't know what to do with this. It's like it's abnormal, and so they find ways to get more comfortable, which means get rid of it. And so the financial thing is a very interesting like dance because a lot of us run into this world of like I want to make more money, but I don't identify with. It. And then here's the thing: I'm going to take it back to the beginning. Um, I have over the years grown my business very well. We're making good money and doing seven figures, and it's awesome. And when I didn't make that, I was like, it's going to be so exciting when I make seven figures for the first time, because you're thinking about it, and then you get there and it feels normal. They do it again and it feels normal. And I go, where's the excitement? And I go, it's not that there's a lack of excitement. I'm very confident. I'm happy about it. And here's what it is. It's kind of like when a professional team wins a Super Bowl or a championship. There's not surprise. Why? Because they know how hard they worked, right? When you make that seven figures, it's not like this, oh my gosh, thank you. It's like, yeah, I did this. I worked for this. You know how much I gone through to get to this level
yeah.
here. And so what I try to look back when I go to this aspect we'll call finances is first off, you have to step back and own where you're at. You have to be really honest. Like if somebody dropped $1 million in your bank account right now, would you feel super confident about it? Would you feel confident defending how you got it? And if not, then you got to make some internal changes to see what do I got to do to feel comfortable. What I want to make sure what I have, I feel like I've earned. Because here's the thing: when you feel like you've earned it, you'll also protect it and grow it.
Mm,
If you don't feel like you earned it, you didn't do the things to build up to it, then you don't identify as the person that has it, so you don't protect it and own it. That's why it's people who like when they're in relationships, they cheat their spouse. Like they know they don't deserve this person, so they self sabotage and it goes sideways. If you don't believe you own something and you earned it, like you don't feel comfortable having it. So the money identity is an interesting one that even I had to navigate. And so what I look at is first you have to see where you stand personally with the idea of money and how it feels and also the actions it takes to get it. Because there's some things you have to learn to do and establish as a sense of like self. Like most of the people, look at I grew up. If you had $1 million, I was told like you had to do something evil to make that
yeah.
million dollars.
Yep.
You had to be a bad guy or a bad girl. I'm like, and I grew up with that. And I got older and I go, man, the most like warm hearted, amazing humans I know are millionaires because they've spent time learning and educating and serving people, and the world's reciprocated that service with income. They're great people. I had to reconfigure that entire mentality because if you think evil people make money, you're never going to want to be evil, never going to make that money. So part of it's the perception of who has the money, I think, the identity that has it. Because now if I can go, all right, I want the money. What does identity do? I don't know if I could do that and go, no, I need to do that. Now I pull back the barriers of what stopped me from pursuing it in the first place. So we pursue, we build, and we grow. But then you're going to be met with moments. And here's what happens is your old identity is always clamoring to pull back. It's always, until you kill it off, it's always trying to pull you back in and be like this person. So maybe you toil and you build and you grow and you finally make that first seven figures. Beautiful, right? What do you do with it? Well, old you goes like, let's buy a boat, let's go get some cars, let's go. But the new identity goes, no, we want to be able to have passive income pay for our toys. I don't want to have earned income pay for the toys, right? And the identity, like the transition of how that person sits back and has delayed gratification. Like you delay it. Like I recently bought my dream car. I got an Audi R8. I've wanted it for a while. I didn't buy it until I had passive income to buy it, to where my
Mm,
toy is paid for by something that is still holding its own. It has its balance is there. Like there's still equity in that property, and so it's moving. And I don't have to worry about, that car. I can just pay for the play stuff, right? But I'm not losing money by having it every single month. And the idea is for a lot of folks that the identity of old Anthony would have been like, I can scrounge up every month and get that car note. Let's just buy it now. But that's not the way to do it. And so I have to get to that stage of going, all right, breathe, hold, might take a year, dude, but like take the time, build this up so that, money there can stay there. And that with its interest, whatever the rent is, that's going to pay for that. And so those little pieces of realizing when that old identity steps up and is trying to pull you back, to not let it grab hold, to stay in position. And again, this does tie to the plan. So I say, like, get a mentor like yourself, because you live the identity, you breathe the identity. A moment ago, you mentioned something like you're borrowing energy from the future self. And there's a truth to it, but there's also a lie to it. The truth is, yes, you have to think about who that person is and borrow and pull back and go, what would that person do? The lie to it's interesting is there's a study done by UCLA called The Stranger Inside. They put diodes on people's brains and they said, hey, tell us about this person. It's a person that they love, and then love shot up. How about this person? Another person they love, love shot up. Then they showed a picture of a stranger. Stranger lit up in the brain. Then they stopped all of it and gone, okay, let's have a different conversation. Tell us about your future self. And stranger lit up in the brain.
Mm,
So we don't have this deep connection to the future self. It's just like we know it exists, but we haven't met that person. We don't know that person. We can't love that person. Therefore, we don't sacrifice for that person. So what I've always done is gone, all right, when we do our identity work, I want to research people that are living in a space that I want to, even if I don't like them. Like the money game's interesting because you're going to find people that make a bunch of money, and I would never do what they do with their money.
yeah.
But I can't knock that they have made the money. What did they do to get there? I'll do something different, but I want to get there. And so when I look at that, I can go, okay, they do this, they do this, they don't do this. Okay, I'm going to, and you make adjustments. Now you have a plan. And when you're faced with that moment in time to make that choice, a decision comes up. And that decision is not, do I invest or do I spend? It's, which identity do I become? Am I the identity of who I am or who I used to be, or the identity of the person I want to become future? The cool thing is in your work, you embody that identity. People don't have to go very far to figure out what the traits are, right? So when they show up, work with you and your team, it's like, hey, if you don't have the identity, don't know what it looks like, that's what we're here for. We've done it, we've built it, we've showed other people how to do it. And so in the work I'm teaching and outlining for you guys, it's not a matter of like saying these are just tactics and strategies. It's saying when you show up to these moments, here's how the identity that you want to live into, how they think, how they choose, what they decide. And if you don't know, ask us, we'll tell you. And now you're faced with that moment of, who am I going to be? And in that moment, choose to be the future, choose to be the better identity. And I promise over time, the choice gets less and less hard. And now it becomes second nature, and you're off to the races.
Man, Anthony, that was powerful. I've never actually considered borrowing. I like to model what other people are doing to achieve that success for sure, but I never actually considered relating that to identity. I'm going to borrow characteristics of that identity I want to embody in my identity. That's a powerful shift. I really, really appreciate you bringing that to the table. And for those of you that are watching this, Anthony's been kind enough. He does deep work with high. I mean, man, you work with some very high individuals, but you're bringing a course and a training that's free to everyone watching this call, because your identity is the separator from where you are today to where
Mhm.
you want to be. And the mission of this book is to empower you with the tactics, the plan, the strategy of becoming financially free in 10 years or less. But that means nothing if you can't identify with that in your life. And so, Anthony, let me ask you this final question. Um, Whether you want to adopt this as you, in fact, let's actually do this as you, Anthony. You're going to go back to the beginning. You're going to go back to, you still are exactly who you are today. You have your beliefs, your thought patterns, your those skills that you have. But if
Yeah.
you had just 10 more years, starting from nothing, but 10 years
Mhm.
to work, to earn, and to invest, and after 10 years you could not trade anytime, you could not work actively to make any money, and your
Mhm.
investments had to produce your income for the rest of your life, where would you
Yeah.
start? What would you do?
Oh, that's a great question, man. Because we're as a family doing this. So this will I will do what we've done, but some little tweaks. Here's what I would do. So my wife, she has a business that's government funded, which it's great because it's consistent. There's no marketing, advertising, conversion. It's just like we do this, government pays for it. It's a good chunk of money there. But I'm a guy that I enjoy teaching, sharing, consulting, that kind of thing. And so I would do two things. One, I would do what she did, which and we do this together as a family, is she launches a business, runs the business, lets the business pay for the home that she's renting. She buys the home, then she owns the house, and then she sells the business. I think it was like $250,000 each. She had four of them at one point. Sells the business, and then she becomes a landlord of the property it's paid off. So now we
Mm,
have the income coming from just the properties. And then from there, I would just do the system of I'd use that actual income coming in to then go and put down payments on more properties and then just have them just be turnkey. I'd get a system in place that's doing that nonstop. On my side, I like to do this. I like to teach and talk and those kind of things. But I realize that I can't do this forever. And so what I would do is I would have between my two companies, when I speak, when I teach people how the speaking business works, I would build the one that's like how the business works. I would definitively build it based on systems, not on Anthony, with the intention of selling it. Knowing that in 10 years I can build it to something pretty cool with some great systems running and then sell it to somebody, let them have it and run with it. So it wouldn't be named me. On my personal side, I don't. That's an interesting dance because I don't not want to work, but I
Totally.
don't want to have to work.
Yep.
That's what I would do. So I do what I'm doing now for my dark work brand. I don't do the coaching. Like all I do is the evergreen portion, not the evergreen, but the live webinars, live trains for getting people in the program. But then my coaches coach. I would build it to where that brand again removes me and it's based on systems. I would like to choose to speak when I want to, but I'd like to have just someone in place that would oversee the coaches and let the process run. But all those things would be built towards it's any extra income would go straight into property. Because for me, the big thing is like the Bitcoin sounds cool, but it's one of those things like I wish I would have got in on that like 20 years ago, right? Or whatever was going on.
Yeah.
But now it's like to have an earned, like a physical property, like it's a physical asset, right? And I always look at there's a reason why the banks use that for loans. There's a reason why the banks have the desire to like, let's just give you a loan for a home. There's no real money made. They just say you owe me money because if you go down, well, you paid half the mortgage, you stopped, and then we get the property still.
Yep.
So it's a dance. So for me, it'd be multifamily. I'd build up and let that thing just kind of blossom into something cool. Maybe eventually like go to get a hotel. I don't know if I want to do that. That's a lot of work. But still, I would just do multifamily, get a bunch of doors, and let that thing run. I, as a family now, we've done some of that. We could stop working now. My wife and I were talking about it. If we want to stop working right now, we're fine forever. Like we're be just fine. But there's a desire to make sure I'm setting my family up, giving my kids a ton of opportunity they'll have to earn later on. And I still love to work. And so the next piece for us is to go, well, we have what we need. And now we're actually looking at like, we're coming foster parents, looking at opening a
Mm.
nonprofit that can serve foster kids because that's my world. But it's a long answer for a short question. But I think for me would be I want to make sure we have enough built up to where yeah, it's properties and people paying rent, and I got the property managers running, and I would spend my time I don't know doing something to serve the foster kid community.
I love it. Systems and assets. That's what I heard you say. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's really all about. It's about creating value, exchanging your value in a massive way for dollars. Dollars follow value, and then routing those dollars into real assets that produce lifetime streams of income, tax efficient, rising with inflation, all of that. Anthony, you're a treasure trove of knowledge. Just so good at what you do. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this because this is the
Yeah.
missing key. This is the link that most people they just never connect these dots. They follow the tactics. They dabble in so many different things, but the second it gets hard, the second they've run out of knowledge, they dabble in something else. And it's really consistent, focused effort in a unified direction that will get you what you want. Financial freedom in 10 years or
Yeah.
less, it's 100% possible, but you just have to
Very.
become the person capable of making that desired reality your
Mhm.
present day just actions. That's really what it comes
Yeah.
down to, leaning into that
Yeah.
protocol. So Anthony,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on. First and foremost, for coaching me personally. You are a transformational leader and coach. I can say that from the bottom of my heart. For those of you that want to get connected with Anthony, his training is down in the comments or down in his bio here. And Anthony, again, thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom today.
Oh man, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I hope people hear this, do something with it, and it's benefits to their lives, man. It's the only goal of doing this.